Hello, good afternoon, and welcome back to our final installment of the Faith Inspired Leadership Series in Property Management. You guys have been committed here, locked in, attending, listening, and joining us to meet each one of our leaders who have been committed task force members, contributors, and subject matter experts for our inaugural pilot group of the Faith Inspired Leadership and Property Management course. Guys, this has been phenomenal. I mean, the wisdom, the insight, the faith and the expertise that each one of these leaders have brought has really been a masterclass, honestly, and how to not only lead, but to do so through faith, through excellence, and with integrity. And so today, I can't express just how humble and excited I am, honored to be with some giants in our industry. I mean, these women have truly forged a way in multifamily and in education. So it is exceptionally important that we recognize that they said yes. They each said yes to the call to contribute, to be contributors to the course and curriculum, but also boldly saying yes to talking more about their faith and how your personal faith has impacted leadership and how it helps us to be good stewards and better servants as leaders. So let me tell you a bit about the leaders you will hear from today. First, I'm joined by Donna Summers. Donna is currently the president of Gables Residential Management Company. She's responsible for the oversight of all aspects of property management at Gables Residential. This includes, but it's not limited to, marketing, training, revenue management, facilities, and operations, both stabilized and new development with the company. Gables manages a portfolio made up of a variety of over 30,000 multifamily and mixed use assets. Talk about stewardship. You have a lot to maintain. In addition to that, she holds her CPM designation, is a member of the Dallas IRM chapter, and she served on the board of directors for the Apartment Association of Greater Dallas and on the legislative committee of the AAGD. She currently serves on the board of directors for Apartment Life, with whom is also one of our partners for this initiative, and Redemptive Real Estate. So she's very much been connected behind the scenes with the support of the Community Growth Foundation, Redemptive Real Estate, and has served greatly to be a subject matter expert for this course. Donna, thank you for your yes, and thank you for being here for the conversation.
Thank you, Melissa.
Absolutely. Next, we have Kendall Pretzer, accomplished training, operations, learning, and development expert with results driven backgrounds. Many of us in the industry have trusted her company to deliver exceptional education to our teams. She has a proven record of success and leadership in mentoring roles, growing and contracting markets. Nationally recognized speaker, trainer, performance improvement consultant, leadership coach, development expert, and a degreed educator, instructional designer, and mentor, all of those and more. Her expertise helped give us the substantial framework and insights as a trusted partner in education, especially for this initiative. Kendall is also a current board member and former CEO at Grace Hill. She joined the team in 2018 after Grace Hill purchased her company, Strategic Solution, and joining policies and procedures with training. Prior to that, she was with Strategic Solutions. Well, she served as the chief operating officer, overseeing account management, customer success, people success, years of experience, countless service, and obviously a good steward. Thank you, Kendall, for joining the conversation.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Last but certainly not least, we have Cynthiann King, also an accomplished training, operations, learning, and development expert in our industry. She is results driven, has a background in real estate and in service sectors, nationally known for her abilities to assess needs, develop and deliver programs and solutions, align core competencies and behaviors with organizational needs at all company levels. Cynthiann is a recognized speaker, trainer, performance improvement consultant, leadership coach, development expert, and she is an exceptional leader who in addition to being on the task force, contributed greatly to the framework, the outline, and the development of our syllabus with Bible-based inserted teachings, scripture, and a solid foundation. Thank you, Cynthiann, for joining the conversation.
Truly my pleasure.
Absolutely. Before I move further, I want to make sure that I make a correction here because I have to make sure I give credit to these ladies where credit is due. I want to mention that on this line, there are multiple decades of expertise. And Kendall, I want to make sure I state this. You have an exceptional background as well with Trammell Crow, Gables as well with Donna, R&B commercial management, Security Capital, Archstone companies, and you hold a BBA in finance from Texas Tech University and is a 2015 Lyceum candidate. And you ladies, in addition to that, have families, careers, spouses, and you still have time to show up. So thank you. Let's get into this dialogue today. So about a year and a half ago, all of us got a phone call from our mutual friend, Stephanie Purier-Helling. We all got the call, and obviously we all said yes. So Donna, why were you inclined to say yes? Why yes to participating in not just the task force, but forming a course that did not exist, that is inaugural, one of its kind that we've never seen in the industry like this before? Why was it important to participate in this initiative?
Well, Melissa, it's interesting because I actually heard about the course before we even began at a conference. And Stephanie and I did know each other, but I went up to her and said, I want to be part of this. So I actually sought her out. I was a glutton for the punishment, I guess, of extra work. But the reason I did it is because your question is, why was it important to me? Ever since I started in this industry a long time ago, I have said, and anyone who's ever heard me talk, because they've heard me say that I think what we do is a calling. I literally think it is a mission, because there are very few industries out there other than maybe healthcare where you touch hundreds of people, thousands over your career, and you catch them or touch them in their most vulnerable moments, good and bad vulnerable moments, just like healthcare. And in those moments, we can make a significant difference in their life. We can care for them. We can love them. We can make sure they're seen and heard in a Christ-like manner and make a difference in someone's life. And I don't think there is a greater thing a human can do than to care for another human. And that's what Jesus did. He demonstrated care over and over. And that is what I believe our industry is called to do. And I don't think any more than a nurse who doesn't like people should be in the business. I don't think a person who doesn't want to care deeply for people should be in our industry. And I think we have lacked that training. So my heart would hurt when someone would come into our industry thinking it's just a job. It's just another paycheck, or I'm going to make a lot of sales and make a lot of money. That's all possible. This industry's been very good to me. But I think it's sad to just come into it with the mindset of being a job, because I don't think it's a job. And I think it's even more than a career. I think it is a calling. And I truly believe that this education program that has been developed and that I had the honor of even being a small part of will go a long way in taking the next generation, or even those who are in it today, to see it a little bit differently, to see that they get up every day doing something bigger than themselves.
Oh, what a phenomenal answer. I feel excited and invigorated all over again.
Say amen. Yeah.
Thank you.
You can tell I'm really passionate about it.
Oh, I love this. This is exactly why having this conversation is important, because we all know you guys for like what you do in the industry, but to hear your personal passion and conviction is so inspiring. Kendall, what about you? What inspired your yes? I mean, you're a busy lady. Like, you have a tremendous amount on your plate as an executive leader of a large corporation, teams all over the country, in addition to partnering with your clients. Why yes to this initiative, especially given you run an education company? why yes to faith-inspired leadership, and why now?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I feel like Donna in that, it's an honor to be involved in this initiative. And because, just to piggyback on what she said, I think the on-site team is the highest, calling of a person, because you are dealing with crisis management, people crisis. You're dealing with all kinds of, normal routine things. You're dealing with money. You're dealing with sort of this great diversity of tasks and events and people. And having this layered over is like, in everything that you do, can you think about how to do that in a Christ-like way? And we don't hear that enough in our industry. You've got an owner or an asset manager who's coming to talk to you about the value of the property, or why haven't you fixed this, or that sort of thing. And then just, 10 minutes before, you were talking with somebody who was crying over lost their job and can't pay their rent. And, and then you figured out there's a fence that's blown down, and you've got to figure out that. And, oh, by the way, your maintenance guy just fell and hurt his back, and he's going to be out for 2 weeks. And, all these things are happening, and, to be centered and grounded and be able to prioritize all those things at the right time in the right way, and do the right thing, and show up in, with a background and a purpose in each of those events is meaningful. And I don't think we hear that enough in our job, and get reminded that, oh, it's not just about the financial impact. It's not just about that hurt person. It's not just about the person, it's about all the things. And how do I as a person show up in these events? And then how can I train others? I've got a staff. How do I show up for them? How can I train them to also do it? So I think this layering of, and bringing this to the forefront of how we handle ourselves in a Christ-like way is critical and important and meaningful.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you for emphasizing that. Cynthiann King. Cynthiann, you have definitely been a strong voice, an advocate for education in our industry, trusted for decades. And you have a busy schedule as well, supporting clients and traveling and speaking. Why yes to this particular initiative? Why now?
Well, I also want to point out that I am working full-time with a company called 42 LLC. I'm their senior VP of professional development. All my life, as a degreed educator, as a person involved in real estate, primarily in the apartment world, I've been blessed with lots of mentors. But my number one mentor, Jesus Christ. And so when you have that kind of foundation, you can't help but be excited about spreading his word and making sure that you are not only experiencing life through that lens, but having that foundation and having that opportunity to bring people to their next best step. And that best step is that Christ-centered step. And so there's a piece of evangelism in here. There's a piece of responsibility in here. There's advocacy in here. And so as one of the curriculum writers, designers, subject matter experts on this project, it's been eye-opening to understand the depth that we can really have as an impact when you have the right foundation, the right perspective. So saying yes was easy. Figuring out how to do everything was not as easy. But when you have that kind of drive, passion, purpose, and wanting to give back in this kind of nature, in this kind of element, in this kind of opportunity, it's just an exciting but purposeful, impactful mission. I know both Donna and Kendall have mentioned the calling, the mission. We are dealing with a basic need, shelter. And we're dealing with people in all different walks of life, different elements, different opportunities. And so love one another as he loves us. Why not? Let's do it. Let's show it.
I'm glad, like, all of you touched on this in one way or another, that There are those that are watching this that may be from the industry through all of our collective networks, and those that may not be from the industry, especially given that we have a partnership not only through Community Growth Foundation, but Grand Canyon University. What I've noticed the last few weeks, our series is really drawing attention to a new audience of students and collaborators who they know about Grand Canyon or they know about leadership courses. So there's some that are like, hey, what is property management? They're being introduced in a whole new way. And so each of you have mentioned and even educated, this is what property management is about. It's about stewarding assets, but more importantly, the stewardship of people, not just the people in your companies, but the residents that we serve. I always like to say for us, yes, it's our job, our career, our vocation, but for our residents, it is personal. It's their homes. So when I say the word stewardship, and either one of you can contribute to this, when I say stewardship, how have you personally ensured, like, okay, God, am I being a good steward? What are some decisions you have to make? Or how do you hold yourself accountable to stewardship as a leader of people, residents, communities? Who would like to share for that? Yes, Cynthiann, please.
Well, time, talent, and treasure, right? Some of the basics of really stewardship are involved in there. And yet, of all of that, time is probably the most relevant when it comes to listening, caring, giving, whether you're working with a supplier partner, you're working with investors, colleagues, residents, guests, visitors, even neighborhood and others. That time spent is going to be significant to each person when you have the foundation of looking at it from the lens of Christ-centeredness. So are you giving people the respect, the attention, that purposeful belief in them and that we care about them, the true care, the true opportunity to understand where they're coming from and what, if anything, we can do from that Christ-centered focus. I think that stewardship is really, what is your perspective and how are you going to respond, react, listen, love?
That's so good. How will you respond, act, and love? It's like giving us a filter of how we handle people and situations. Donna, I'd like to hear from you as president of a major company. You have a lot of people who answer to you and a lot to consider when you make decisions. How do you apply stewardship?
That's a great question. And we are in the process right now at Gables of reiterating and rolling out another level of customer care. And really, that is all Christ-like behavior. I mean, everything everything we're rolling out, everything we're doing, it is all Christ-like leadership, Christ-like behavior, being Christ-like. And of course, I don't stand up in front of everybody say that. But what's that saying about preach the gospel and sometimes you use words? It's your actions. And so when I teach people about stewardship, and I don't even really use the word stewardship, but it's similar to what Cynthiann was saying. It's just teaching them to care. And you do that through your own demonstration. So what I've tried to do, and I'm not, by no means have I done that well. Kendall and I have known each other for many, many years, and she can attest to my faults. But what I try to do is set the right example, that Christ-like example, through spending time with people, listening, caring, showing love. And that doesn't always mean it's easy. It doesn't always mean that you don't have to make hard decisions. But I tell people in our job, in our role, you may have to evict someone if they don't pay their rent. That doesn't feel good. But if you have done everything you can to be kind and offer them solutions, maybe try to get them help in another way, like you can do hard things in a Christ-like manner. And that is what I think we have to teach people, to steward everything they're doing through the lens of Christ. And I get it. You can't say that all the time, but that's what I love about this program, because it can say it and they can hear that. But then You take what you've learned and you do it every day, your actions, and then people will come to you and they'll say, man, you have something I don't have. What is that? That is your door to then share the gospel. And so I hope I'm answering your question correctly well, but it's really through, to me, it's been through example. It's been through not through, yelling and screaming from the rooftop, but people know because of our example, the way we act, and that we do every day to the best of our ability, do the right things. And I think that makes a difference.
Whew, when you said you can do hard things in a Christ-like manner, I think we all felt that because that's what we're charged to do. And as I listened to your response, it sounded very much like the fruits of the spirit, like kindness, gentleness, meekness, long suffering. Like those are the tenets of our faith, right? So thank you so much for that eloquent response and how you're
And
doing that. And even hearing.
And to your point, all of those are taught in the class, right? How to apply.
They are.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing that full circle, because that brings me to my next question. And I want to go to Cynthiann and Kendall with this one. How does this particular course equip leaders to be good stewards? So we've heard from you about your stewardship, but now we have a generation of leaders that aspire to a level of success, or they're aspiring, some of them, especially if signing up for this course, to find value, meaning, and purpose in their work and vocation. So with this course, how are we specifically equipping and preparing them? Cynthiann, you're the perfect person to answer this as one who has diligently worked to write this course. It is so beautifully and well written. It's the perfect balance of Bible-based teaching, but practical, sound application with the right amount of rigor. Please tell us more about how you and the team inserted those components and maybe even some biblical aspects of it.
Well, I was extremely blessed to work with a very talented team. So I'm only one of the contributors to help write this course, subject matter expertise, curriculum design, peer reviews. So many people were involved in the content here. But when you really take a look at the syllabus and you realize that each of the major elements that you need to be successful in life is based in scripture, it's based in actual practical application. So what I really love about this course is it's not the principles of property management per se. It's rather the different elements of property management that one needs to be involved in with everyone with whom they're interacting, right? And so you have that ability. I mean, Jeremiah 21:7, right? We talk about how all things are good, right? We talk about the fact that God wants good for you. And so how are you going to project that good to others? How are you going to continue to make sure that everybody is getting the respect and the care that they deserve? So you'll see throughout our course, we've got biblical foundation with practical application, with very great insights as to how to put this together. So whether you're a beginner, whether you're someone who is known in property management, working in the field, whether you're someone who needs a brush up, there's so much in here that you can grow and learn and execute from that foundation. And in everything that we do, we want to make sure that we are keeping the right focus. And that is, what would he do? What would he say? What would the Son of God ask us to do in each situation?
Mm-hmm. You put that so well, but I'm thinking about something Stephanie echoes from John Maxwell of not just what would Jesus do, but just do what Jesus did. Like, how many times do we think about, well, what should I do? And it's like, just do it. Like, just exemplify it and walk in it. And to your point, it's like, that's a life that's living out a sermon. Like, even if I don't say Jesus inside of a corporation, Am I walking this out in a way I will stand out? Will they know, hey, your leadership is different? And then they'll naturally inquire, hey, what's different about you? How did you learn leadership? How do you govern your life? And that is an invitation or opportunity to share our faith, right? Kendall, what about you? From as an educator and running an education company, how is this uniquely positioned to serve and teach stewardship and service?
I think one of the interesting things about my own personal path is that, I started in property management, but then at some point in my career flipped over to the supplier side, which, Cynthiann has mentioned. And I think that's another interesting path that many of us on the supplier side now have been on the property management side. So to Donna and Cynthiann's point, learning, watching what you do, how you behave, how you bring Christ into those crisis type situations, and then moving to that the industry is big enough. The industry is, if that's not your calling, to Donna's point, if that's not your calling, maybe it's supporting people that is their calling. And watching it from another perspective and bringing that side into, and that's what I talk a lot about at Grace Hill. Because people come here and they say, well, we're a software company. We do training, we do surveys, we do policy management, we do sort of some of these other things. But, well, that's what I do. We're a software company. And I was like, oh, no, that's not what we are. We support the people. And let me tell you all what they do on site. And let me tell you how challenging and different is. And, they have a purpose and they are dealing with somebody who's, how do we help them how to go home with all their fingers and toes when they've just fixed something, how to make sure. So we talk about that, but it's sort of go full circle again. How do I teach the people to support the people that are on site? And this all can be, it's not just the people on site and dealing with residents. It's also the company, the industry is big enough to find your calling. Where is that? And then how do you lead and serve the industry and those people? Even if I'm a couple of steps away from them, I still need to be focused on how do I serve all those people, even if I'm a software engineer and I'm back here coding technology, but ultimately serving those people. The industry is big enough, and that's, and again, sort of in Christ, all things we want to do, that this course shows kind of the breadth of the whole, the whole talents and skills that people have.
I love that you emphasize the industry is big enough. And that just gave me so much perspective, Kendall, when you just mentioned it's like, even if I'm coding software, I'm serving. Imagine if everybody took that to heart when we walk through the doors of our jobs every day, that I'm not showing up to work, I'm showing up to serve. That's what this is about. It's shifting the perspective of how to serve, but giving you a modality of how to do it, but through a Christ-like lens. That's what's different. And for each of us, our yes was Christ. Now, I'll admit my next question, not necessarily on the list, but I think it's an appropriate one. So we know that this inaugural group, this course, is the first of its kind in our industry, where we are specifically and intentionally teaching Christ-like biblical principles about leadership through property management. What do you say to someone who says, hey, I'm not a Christian, or I have different beliefs or values, or who may just feel like, I don't know if my faith or my religion go together with my work? What would you say to them on how to invite them to learn, to inquire, or even participate, regardless of faith? Cynthiann, I want to start with you on that one, and then Donna.
Well, I think the importance here is having love for others, right? And so even if someone is not using Jesus Christ as their leader, as their foundation, There is so much to learn from here to make sure that you are in your correct set point. Where is your compass? Where is your foundation? And so a foundation of love will never go wrong. And a foundation of that perspective of love can never put you in trouble. Kindness, respect, love, like you said, fruits of the spirit. But even if we're not referencing that exact element, that's still the purposeful foundation of one's life.
Yeah, that's so right.
So good. It's just the foundation of love, which everyone understands that language of love, right? Donna, what about you? You mentioned it earlier, and even in conversations about how to live out your faith in a way that speaks for itself without words. What do you say, maybe to those who will inquire, or even members of your team or someone interested? Hey, I don't share that faith, or I just have questions. How would you respond as a leader who is Christ-centered?
I have I have taught, and Kendall's heard me, classes, leadership courses, different things for years. And every single time I've used something from the Bible, whether people knew it or not. Because biblical principles, to Cynthiann's point, are love, care, right? They're principles that hundreds and thousands of books have been written on for generations. And they may not ever mention the word Christ. So I encourage people that you can learn something from all kinds of things. And this course, while faith-based, it is based on principles that have been around for generations inside and outside the church. And to Cynthiann's point, it's care, it's love, it's servant leadership, which there are hundreds of books written on servant leadership that never use the word Christ. These are principles that I think have proven the test of time. And I would sit down with anyone who would go through it and say, this is something I can't do. I don't believe there's anything in it that you would not apply to your day-to-day life, much more your work, that are just principles that will carry you forward to become a great leader, no matter your religion, no matter how you think about that, because these are basic humanity principles that we should all be using every day. Now, we on this call and many others believe in Christ and believe they originated from Christ. But if you don't believe that, you're still going to benefit from the actual message itself and what that delivers. And honestly, the impact that it delivers, not just on you, because it's going to give you more self-worth. It's going to give you more confidence in the way that you approach people. It's going to give you something bigger than yourself to get up for every day, no matter your belief. But then it's also going to have an impact on the people you touch every day. So when you put your head on the pillow at night, you're going to know that you did a job well done and that you made an impact on someone else. And that's going to make you feel better. It doesn't matter what you believe.
Whew, that's powerful. That's so powerful. I'm thinking too, I had the opportunity recently to attend the Faith at Work conference in DC. And one of the things we were challenged with, a team of professors out of I think it was University of Texas, they specifically study the impact statistically, a business case for faith at work. And they were talking about how there's a natural increase in productivity, employee retention increases, it fosters a sense of belonging and value. And so it was incredible to me that even outside of our industry, there are decades of case studies. Like I want to say this, and then I want to hear from you, Kendall. There's infallible information, data, statistics for those leaders who are saying, why would I support or sponsor my team participating in a course like this, in addition to or in supplement to other industry education? And honestly, there's a business case for it. when you look at, like you said, value centric, these are principles that are taught even beyond our industry for thousands of years, that the tenets of faith, love, all of those things. And most importantly, it matters to your people. It matters to people to have training that is value centric and it speaks to what they believe. And so I would like to really wrap our conversation talking to the operators, owners, supplier partners, anyone who's considering this course now listening to us, and just maybe share with them, hey, this is why you should say yes. Especially as I'm going to pull up the link here, our deadline for registration or enrollment is just days away at June 15th. We've had some exceptional registrants and essays come through. And so it's not too late. You got a few days to register before we get to Apartmentalize, right? But Kendall, can you maybe just encourage some leaders as to why they should say yes and sponsor and advocate for their teams to participate in this course?
Yes, of course. It's in like parenting, you want a village speaking to your children. And because, the message is sometimes better heard from others. And so doing the right thing, thinking about ethics, trying to figure out how to make some good decisions in some choices sometimes that are very difficult, that's never out of style. That's always something good for our teams to hear, and doesn't have to come from me. And if I can help them increase the tools in their toolbox that they use to make decisions, that they're tools that they use to kind of decide what's the right thing, what's the best thing here for me to do, I would say this is a great opportunity to have someone else speak into your team, not only in a faith-based way, but also just in a moralistic, value, ethical, what are my tools to go make good decisions? This is a great course for that. You're on mute, Melissa.
Thank you. Donna or Cynthiann, any words to contribute and add to that? Just speaking to your leadership peers in the industry, why say yes and support your teams for this training?
I would just like to say that I know that it's probably difficult for some companies to say they're specifically behind a faith-based program. I get the logistics of that and maybe some mental or really physical barriers to that. What I would do is I would encourage, I'm sorry, I think my phone's ringing. I apologize. I don't know how to turn it off because I can't see it. Oh, there it is. Let me decline it. Thank you. Sorry about that. I would encourage any leader who believes in this program to consider sponsoring someone outside your company. Just consider being a sponsor. And there are opportunities to make a difference in a young or even not so young person who's in the industry who really wants this program and wants to learn and grow. And there may be companies out there that won't pay, and that's fine. I get that. But I would say it is important enough for the future of our industry to really show and really honestly to change the reputation of our industry. To be honest, our industry has gotten a bad reputation over the years. And we are not the big bad landlord who's out there just trying to raise rents. That really isn't who we are. And to change that mentality has to come from the inside out. So I would just say, I know there are barriers to some opportunities, but we can bring those barriers down as leaders. So I just call out to any leader who might not be involved in this, but you believe in it and you want to sponsor someone. I just encourage you to find someone to sponsor, because I think that's the way we're going to make a difference from the inside out.
I would also say it's important to be a mentor. So who can you mentor? I'm still working on site with teams very regularly, and there's a longing to be sponsored, mentored, coached, encouraged. And so I agree with Donna. If you can't do this type of sponsorship within your own company, who do you know? Who could benefit? Who would be someone you could mentor, invest in, and have a legacy of that foundation of love going on for the rest of their lives too, right? So what is your purpose in life? It's also to give people meaning too. So if you have meaning, if you have been mentored, if you've been sponsored, why not pay it forward? Why not give an opportunity to someone else who would love to grow, who needs to grow, who you know you could make a significant impact with?
I love that. Well, guys, you've heard the call to action from our leaders. Just quickly, I'm going to show you more about the course. We are literally a few days away from the end of our enrollment period. It's an asynchronous course, which means it is self-paced. You get to learn in an online learning environment together, but self-paced and online does not mean not engaged. We will be highly engaged inside the course for 8 weeks. We have 25 seats for this course. And as the leader, the president of Community Growth Foundation, Dave Snyder, said that you're making history when you're a part of this first inaugural group. Literally, you will be participating in this course, the first of its kind, the first group, and your participation matters to us because you'll be giving us feedback about what you learn, how it's applied, how you go through the modality of the course, and the partnership. We want to thank Grand Canyon University. It is highly significant. This isn't just a certification, but a university-backed certification through Grand Canyon. So we appreciate your leadership in that for a very minimal, honestly, investment compared to getting another degree or some other certifications out there. There's tremendous returns on that. So again, a few days left, our final push here. Tag someone, share this live, go back and watch the series. This is some good stuff. And we will launch our class online on June 22nd. I am honored, ladies, to not only host this conversation, but that I get to represent our task force and our industry as instructor of this course to our inaugural group. So I'm so thankful. I'm glad you all trust me to take that baton and facilitate it with excellence, with love, and with Christ, with Christ-centered leadership. And with that, again, our final push for you to participate. If you have questions, reach out to any one of these leaders. Thank you to all of our colleagues and task force members. We honor you. We honor your leadership, your thought leadership, and your sacrifice and your yes. Guys, it's been phenomenal. We'll see you. Hopefully, continuation of this series. Safe travels, everyone, to New Orleans, and have a great rest of the day. Goodbye, everyone.
God bless you. And thank you, Melissa, for saying yes to being our professor. We couldn't think of a better person. How fabulous.
That's right. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
Well
you.
done.
So honored. All right. Great rest of the day, everybody. We'll see you later.